All right, this is Robbie, Mark, and Jennifer. They're sitting in today for my speech. My name is Avery Walsh, and I will be giving a speech on devastating addiction. Have you ever thought or assumed that your family member or a loved one was currently using drugs or alcohol? Of course, we would never want to make that speculation with the fact that they are stricken with the disease of addiction. Addiction can affect anyone, even if you're not using drugs yourself. And I think this is pretty valid, considering if a loved one were to be using drugs, we would be shaken greatly by it. Addiction can affect anyone. Anyone can become addicted themselves. I used to work at Teen Challenge myself for 2.5 years. It is a rehab facility for adolescent girls with life-controlling issues, such as drug and alcohol abuse, eating disorders, and mental illnesses. Addicts are human beings just like everybody else, not monsters. They struggle with everyday things just like we do, if not more. And I will be going into the actual definition of what an addict is and what addiction is. I will be describing their thought process and their decision-making tactics, and I will show you how they can struggle with everyday life and just how you can become addicted to anything. With all of that being said, the definition of an addict is actually described through the Merriam-Webster definition, and it is to devote or surrender someone's self or their thoughts to someone or something habituously or obsessively. We already noticed that it doesn't even mention the word substances or drugs or alcohol throughout the entire definition. For example, if somebody who does not consider themselves an addict has a glass of wine with dinner, an addict might not be able to see how they are able to drink wine without feeling the urge to become intoxicated. Addicts tend to use drugs or alcohol to hide their feelings or simply because they cannot stop. Statistics show from the Internet article Statistics on Drug Addiction by Scott Thomas that 7 million people in the United States alone are affected by some sort of drug addiction. To some of us, that may seem like a lot of people or hardly any at all in comparison to the entire population. Through the thought process is described in the Addict Behavior Internet article through doctors at Lakeview that addicts tend to base their reactions off of pleasure and pain. They always seem to find a reason to use. For example, if their favorite football team were to win the Super Bowl, they might use that to celebrate. Or if somebody that was very close to them dies, they would use drugs in order to cover up their feelings of either depression or anger or whatever it is. Now, with pleasure seeking, once the priority becomes pleasure and that is mixed with impulsivity, all decision-making tactics go out the window. And addiction is a disease just like depression and anxiety. Moreover, people who are addicted to something are normal people just like everybody else. They struggle with everyday life things. For example, a couple weeks ago, I heard somebody speaking in a Narcotics Anonymous meeting about road rage that they had encountered. Somebody had cut them off and nearly ran them off the road. And their first initial reaction was to tailgate them and honk their horn repeatedly. But they stopped themselves and thought through their consequences and figured that if they were to do that, they would cause more distress than what was already involved, and they could have caused an accident themselves. The difference between an addict and a non-addict is they might have to work through their thought process more in order to overcome that and to control the reactions that they have. I know for myself, it is really easy to judge somebody on their outer appearance or what they're wearing or what they're doing. And this is where we have to take a step back and observe for ourselves who that person really is in order to make a valid conclusion about it. Furthermore, anyone can become addicted to anything which might seem crazy to some people. For example, going back to the definition of addiction through Merriam-Webster Dictionary, it mentions the word obsession. Now, the word obsession means for something or a thought to continuously or habitually intrude or preoccupy somebody's mind. Have you ever been obsessed with your weight or how you look, Or have you had so much work to do that you never had time for family or friends? This, unfortunately, is considered addiction, and any addiction can be harmful to anyone and everything. They actually have groups to help people with those sort of addictions, such as Overeaters Anonymous, Codependency Anonymous, Emotions Anonymous, Sex Anonymous, and this comes from the list of 12 steps groups through the internet article Tim starred. Now, to summarize all of what I have just said, I feel that I've made some pretty valid points about what addiction is, how the definition doesn't even mention substance abuse, and how addicts are just normal people like we are, and they struggle with whatever it may be in the time being. But this doesn't mean that people who aren't addicts struggle any less than they do. If we are open, honest, and willing with ourselves and others, we can fix a lot of these problems and learn a lot from the addict themselves. I actually am an addict. I have struggled with drug and alcohol abuse since I was about 14 years old, and I have taken the delightful path to involve myself in Narcotics Anonymous. The resource of all of those people have helped me greatly. They've also helped me work through the 12 steps of recovery, and I'm very honored that I had the opportunity to speak on addiction for you guys, and I hope that this information helped you. Thank you.